Bob. Continue.
I guess we're reaching the 7:30 point. So
Yeah, we're Arizona and California on the same time now. Before I was having to join you at 8:30 our time. Now we're on the same time because Arizona does not have daylight time.
I've heard that.
right.
It's a renegade state.
Uh-huh.
You don't do it.
Yep, the astronomers in California wish they had that. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I like it. I think it's great we don't have daylight saving time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that change is difficult sometimes. Yeah.
More difficult when I worked and in the springtime. I enjoyed it more when in the fall when we got an extra hour to sleep in.
Yeah.
But now I don't pay much attention to clocks.
One thing I can talk about at some point, whenever you want, Tom, is I had a really nice conversation with Brother Lawrence a couple days ago. And so I can share with you what he told me whenever you want me to. I'll be glad to do that.
Yeah,
He knows I'm
okay.
coming to these meetings.
We'll have to see where that fits in.
Well, I think as soon as we get the maximum number of people would be the appropriate time to do that because a lot of people knew him.
Yeah. Yeah, good person.
Yeah, he was. Or is. He still is.
Still is, yeah. Still is.
So
Yeah,
Mike,
is your camera located on the ceiling or what?
it's on top of the monitor. It's kind of looking down here. You want me to put it?
You got a big monitor.
Yeah, I was going to say
I
that.
got a 27-inch monitor. Now you can see my
Yeah.
nostrils very well.
Put it back up.
Yeah, put it back up.
Did I flip? Here. Oh, well.
I was just watching a night sky network program on the James Webb Telescope, and evidently they're aiming for October to put it up, but they have to deliver it down to South America, I guess, to shoot it off.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You guys missed the chance. Well, I know the VCAS had some sort of where they could view the building of the telescope over the last few years. I don't know if any of you guys had the chance to do
Oh,
that.
you mean the James Webb Telescope? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that, but just never wanted to make the trip.
Yeah. Little blurbs, little mini videos pop up on YouTube and Facebook every now and then,
Right.
but nothing organized that I saw.
So, Mike, have you had any Windy Skies Observatory meetings or?
Yeah. We have another one this the next second Tuesday, so in about a week or so. Yeah. This time we're going to go talk about somebody's total eclipse trip. So we with the VCAS, Hal Jandorf gave an interesting little talk about his history of amateur astronomy and how he went through it, how it evolved, and what it became was sort of like a group speak about all the trips, interesting trips that they went on. And so he actually gave the talk to my group 1 month, about 2 or 3 months ago, and it was very popular. And so that's why we're again doing it this time. And I'm going to go talk about the chasing the clouds to get to the 2012 Venus transit. It was quite an adventure that me and a friend Eddie did. That we really wanted to take an image of it, but in Ventura it was all clouded out. And so we called our wives and says, we're going to be traveling a little bit longer. Don't expect us to be home at the regular time we told you. We went to Santa Barbara, it was still cloudy. We went to uh, Goleta Beach, and that was still cloudy. And I said, why don't we go all the way up to Morro Bay? I think we'll miss the clouds. And he says, no, let's try. There's this place that I just Googled. He's driving on the freeway and he's Googling. There's this metro station over by Vandenberg Air Force Base. And so we basically made it over there, and it was kind of iffy, but it proved to be a pretty good site. The clouds, the cover cleared, they went into the ocean, and at the very last point, they started coming, and it was at the metro station, right. It's called the Surfside Station or something like that. It's in the base, but you get through it through public roads to get to it. The tracks are literally right next to the beach. I could show you the pictures, and it was. The only reason why I agreed to it because it had an open bathroom, and I'm thinking we could have got stuck, for many hours without a place to go, and so it was kind of funny in a way that our observations and our image taking was interrupted by rather large vehicles on rails that went in front of it because we were on the land side, and so we're looking out to the ocean, and Eddie was all business. He just wanted to take pictures, but I started showing people the transit. People would you'd be waiting to get on the train. Hey, you want to look at the transit, And so I'm not taking pictures all the time. So, I had a bunch of people looking through the viewfinders. So I took images with a C8 and my little Migres. And so, but the best picture I got was at the very end where the sun was going down into the ocean. If you want to share, I can show it.
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great.
Okay, let me just hold a second.
It seems like we took pictures of the Venus transit from Santa Barbara. Okay, I think, if I remember right.
It got cloudy. Well, when we went, it was cloudy, and so here.
Are you talking about the Venus transit a few years ago?
2012.
Yeah. No, yeah. I got a whole series of photos of that, but they got in the way of the house. I mean, the sun set, and I had to stop. But I got a.
Okay, so that's the one of the last pictures I got.
That's great.
And that's the transit of Venus, not the transit of Mercury?
Yes, 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. Very nice. That's a great shot.
Yeah, so I've got a whole other sequence of it going down in the ocean. I mean, yeah, I got pictures like everybody else with the the first contact and all that, and you could see it with the sunspots and all that. But I thought that this was really good, and unfortunately, Eddie chose the wrong type of batteries to take. He is a very big believer in those Celestron power packs. They're only 18 amp hours. And what I used was a deep cycle RV battery from Costco that weighs about 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And that lasted. And just about the time things were getting real interesting, his battery runs out the last so
Yeah.
so I'll do, but it was pretty good. So it was one of those things that we were prepared to go hundreds of miles just to the beat. Well, Eddie was with his friend Mark. You remember the annular eclipse of the sun?
The what? Oh, the annular eclipse? That
Yeah,
was also in 2012.
yeah. Well, anyways, my friend Mark, who was my boss too, they decided the best place to go was in Oregon. And the VCAS, part of us decided to go to Utah, north of, was it St. George or something like that?
Yeah.
And so there we are, and we're trying to find the best place. And half of us want to stay in the RV park where everybody is, and the others, like me, thinking, those mountains are going to be too low. And so we're looking for a place in St. George, and Robin goes, why don't we try over here? And there was this little park. I don't know if it was private or not. It was like a jungle gym and all that for small kids. And so we set up there, and we had great viewing. I had
We also
forgotten.
looked at that annular eclipse from St. George, but we got what is it? A motel room or something, a hotel room that had a
Yes.
nice balcony that faced west. So as the sun set,
Oh,
and we had air conditioning and beer and had a good time. It was rather
okay.
hot.
Now let me ask you: was this hotel next to the Black Bear Diner?
Was it what?
Next to the Black Bear Diner,
Boy, I don't know.
because that was the first place.
I can show you some pictures of it if I have a
Okay.
minute here.
Okay, because because that was the first time we discovered Black Bear Diner, because it was right next to the hotel, and they had really great food. And my
Yeah.
wife gets a call from my sister-in-law, who's in some other place, and she calls up and says, I found this really great place that you need to eat at. I don't know if there's any of them in Southern California. Black Bear Diner. So both my
Yeah.
wife and my sister-in-law discovered it at the same time, and we were eating at the same time at the place.
That's good. I've eaten at those, a couple of them. And they're
Yeah.
good.
They got one in Simi Valley. There's one in Fairfield, so we used to go there. So a lot of food. After the third or fourth time, we decided,
It's,
enough food for half a week. So,
yeah, plentiful servings,
yeah.
but it is
So
good.
did you find your images?
Yeah, let's see if I can get back on showing it to you.
Okay, I let go.
So meanwhile, I got this this autoguider
Share
here.
screen.
I don't know if you can
Oh.
see it. It's
Oh yeah.
It's. I thought it was
Can
advertised
you
as.
guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. You're preempted, Hank.
Yeah,
This will be quick.
Okay.
problem.
This is the hotel we stayed at.
No, it's a different. No.
Okay. So there's our hydrogen alpha from the porch. There's
Mhm.
a picture of the sun with prominences. There's it's slightly off center because we were not exactly on center line.
Yeah.
And this was it as it set behind the hills. Then we also went to another eclipse in Australia in November. And this was it rising. This was
Mhm.
during totality. This was in Queensland, Australia.
Mm.
And this is the diamond ring as it reemerges.
Yeah, I see you used a 40D. I've got a 40D, and
Yeah.
I broke my USB connector, so I called up a place to ask how much it would cost to fix the connector, and they said, well, it probably costs more than the camera's worth. So I've got a couple of USB connectors on their way from India, and I'll be doing a Hank on my camera here.
Okay.
You know, taking it.
I'm done. Go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, I was trying. I've been struggling with auto guiding this week, so I thought I'd just test it. I mean, I've always been able to image with it, but I've never super sharp. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take the Magnute. It's not so heavy, and I put the auto guider on it, and I got an RMS of 1.5 arc seconds,
That's
which
very
is
good.
not horrible, but I should be able to get to 0.5 arc seconds, and that's my goal, because I'm getting this fancy imaging gear and so on. It's not going to be very much good if I mean, it's a mono camera. You get it for the resolution, right? So if your auto guiding is lousy, you might as well get it color. Which, by the way, I did. I did order a color camera as well.
Which
So,
one?
The AC 2600 MC. So yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's an APS-C sized sensor, and it's brand new.
Mhm.
So because I
Okay,
figured,
that's-
you know, if I go with that mono camera, I might not want to do that all the time, because you have to set up a filter reel and whatnot. So if the moon is not out, then you might as well use a color camera. Anyway, so I tested the autoguider, and it's just not working very well. I've tried PhD2. I've looked at the log, and the calibration curve is actually very good. It's exactly 90 degrees. It's just never seen it as good as that. But still, the guiding is like 1.5 arc seconds, and I've posted it online and got some advice back and so on. A lot of people say, well, it was because of the wind, and that's true, because it was windy. So 1.5 arc seconds is not so bad, perhaps. But anyway, I did decided I have a QHY5 autoguider, the SSAG. It's from Orion. I don't have it here on the table, but I saw this cheap autoguider. It's the 120 ASI 120 Mini, and I thought it came with a scope, but I guess I thought wrong, because it does not come with a scope. So I have this. It was $150. Anyway, I'll try it. I'll see if I can attach it to a scope, or maybe use it as an off-axis guider. So I've been looking at off-axis guiders. ZWO has some, and this one seems to fit in there fairly well. So anyway,
Hank, is that a ZWO?
yeah,
Okay.
ZWO 120 Mini.
So it's a
Uh,
monochrome. Okay.
Yeah, it's a monochrome, and it's got an ST4 port and a USB micro. For
That's
the price,
inch and a quarter.
sorry, an inch and a
That's
quarter.
inch and a quarter.
Right. So yeah. I was hoping. Well, this does slide into my my Orion autoguider, so I can actually use it straight if I want to. It should fit.
Yeah.
Comes with a small extender, and I think
I was going to ask you, what you guys use an autoguider. Where exactly do you attach an autoguider? Is it on? Do you piggyback on your scope, or is it a separate arm that comes off your?
yeah. Normally speaking, you just piggyback it on the scope. So most scopes have an adapter for it. Usually the Orion adapter, and you can slide it in there.
Hank, one of the things that you may want to do is make sure that you've got a low spanny type mount. And so two things that what I've been reading that's very important. One is to have it exactly polar aligned as possible, so that you don't have to use your deck axis to do many corrections. Because there's that slop in there, that the deck is the only axis that you have to go back and forth and take up the backlash. The RA is basically fast or slow or normal. So looking at your graphs, you've got the two graphs. You've got your red, which is your deck, and your blue normally, which is your RA. And so you can tell which one is kind of swinging all over the place.
Yes, they both look pretty much the same, and others who looked at it online said, well, it's probably just seeing because it was windy, and that may be just what it is. So,
Oh, there's
Yeah,
been a lot of wind.
but
A lot of wind.
there are other possibilities. I read on the Los Mandy board that you should not put tighten the clutches too much, and I like to make them really tight. So, but I'm hearing that that's a bad thing because it really increases the friction in the gear in the bearings. And so, yeah, last night I tried to do it to loosen it up quite a bit, but unfortunately it was blowing quite hard last night, so I couldn't do really anything. I had like RMS of 5 or something like that. And I
Hank,
did
I
it,
was
sorry?
going to say Ioptron says the same thing, that you're not supposed to tighten the gears down too tight.
Right,
The same
right.
thing you were saying, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I took one image last year that was actually the best I ever took. And after I was done imaging, I moved the scope, and all of a sudden I realized that I hadn't tightened the clutch. So, or maybe just a very little bit. And that was the best one I ever took. So I suspect that has to do something with it as well.
Mhm.
And,
I'm wondering if there's a excuse me, a semantics problem here, because the clutches just basically couple the gear to the mount, either right ascension or the declination. You went away, but anyway, whereas the backlash, which is another adjustment, I see where you'd want that not real tight, so the motors don't skip. So when they're talking about things not too tight, are they talking about backlash adjustments, which is very different than the clutches?
no, this has nothing to do with the backlash. It's just with the tightening of the clutches. It presses. I believe it presses directly on the bearings. Pretty much, there is some direct contact, and
It could be that the bearings don't like being pressed too hard.
right.
Oh, that makes sense, because like on my Orion, the right ascension drive is a big worm gear, and it's aluminum, and it's got a skirt on it against which the clutch pushes. So it would make sense. It would distort the ring gear.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
In my situation with the Ioptron, it's really it has to do with how much pressure the gears are putting on each other when they mesh. In other words, it can be very loose or it can be pretty tight. And so they say you should put it down tight and then back off
right.
a turn or two, so that,
Yeah.
but it feels to me, or sounds to me like we're talking about gear mesh, tension on the gears actually meshing with each other.
That
Bob,
would be
why
the-
wouldn't you do it the opposite? Why wouldn't you start loose and then just engage it? Well, they want you to tighten it and then loosen it. That's
Yeah, well, you could do it that way, Tim. You could do it that way, but they suggest, so you turn a knob and you get it so there's a tension on the knob, and then you back it off. You back it off a couple times, and that's the way you have of being consistent when you're setting it up. So you go through that routine.
okay.
And if you have a Misu, you don't have any of those problems. You just have slippage with the rollers. So there's, friction mounts don't necessarily have that, but they have issues with slippage and being off balance. That's the bane of that mount.
Mhm. Well, this might be a good point with everybody here to talk about Brother, what's his
Brother
name?
Lawrence.
Lawrence, brother, excuse me.
Yeah,
Brother
yeah.
Lawrence, yeah.
Brother Lawrence, yeah. So how many of you do not know Brother Lawrence?
I don't know him.
I don't
I know him.
Okay. Yeah, Brother Lawrence was a member of the club for years. And he came to our meetings regularly. And he was part of a Benedictine order in the Episcopal Church. And they had their monastery on top of the mountain, and it burned down. I remember back in 2012 or something like that, had the big fire by Montecito, and so the monastery was destroyed. And he came regularly. He really enjoyed the club a lot, and so they came back down and were by the mission for a while, and then eventually he went back east. But I talked with him. He's now 92 years old. And he wanted me to greet all of you. He is now in a small apartment in a nursing home. He unfortunately has lost the use of his lower limbs. He's in a wheelchair. But he said one of the things he misses the most is the AU. He says he really, really misses our meetings and what we did. He really enjoyed it a lot. So I just thought I'd pass it on to all you,
Okay,
for
well,
those of you who know him.
we could send him the contact information. He could join this group, or he could do our Monday morning podcasts.
Yeah, you know, I asked him about that. I think he's unable to operate the computer. I'm trying to remember what he said. There was some problem with that. Nevertheless, we could call him and ask him. I mean, I can call him back and ask him, but I thought about that. I thought, well, why doesn't he, join us? But I think if I recall correctly, there was some problem that he had in being able to operate the computer. So
Yeah, if he had access to YouTube, just be able to view. If somebody could start a tablet for him or laptop, and he could just go to our YouTube site that we're recording most of meetings on. He could see what's going on that way and leave comments if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Bob, does he have any type of like an iPad or any kind of a mobile device that he could have at that rest home?
I'm not sure, Tim. I'm not sure what his capability is.
Because the nurses or male nurses, they could come in there and join the meeting and literally let him just sit there and participate.
Yeah,
that would be really wonderful, but he'd need that. He'd need to have that internet access. He'd have to have that Wi-Fi capability.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll find out more. We had a bunch of things to talk about, and so I don't remember all the details now. We talked for about 20 or 30 minutes.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is a wonderful person. So anyway, you now have the latest on him, and we'll see if we can get him, whether he can join us in some way.
Okay.
Or at least
Thanks
watch
for calling him, Bob. Thanks for
You're welcome.
contact.
You're welcome.
I've been bad about that. Chuck sent me some contact information. I don't know if it's the same where he's at now, but at one point, I had a phone number and I had a email address, and I think if he has some mobile device, I could at least email him. And but I'll check with Chuck.
Okay. Yeah, Chuck might know more, and I'll get back to him and ask him too. Also,
That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll see if we can go further with it or not.
God, if he could come to the Zoom meeting, what a great thing that would be.
Yeah, it's mine. I mean, I have another older friend in Canada I call is in a similar situation, and actually, Brother Lawrence is much better able to articulate than my other friend, and so he's still. I mean, I think that he would enjoy. He could take it in and enjoy and make some comments.
He'd love your guys' images. He would love that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did photography. He was doing photography work when I first came to Santa Barbara. We were going to the Trinity Episcopal Church, and that's where I heard about him. And so they said, hey, you must meet Brother Lawrence because he takes pictures like you do, you know. So
Yeah.
I went up to the monastery and met him. And he had pictures. He had a picture of, I think it was Comet Kotek going behind a cross.
Huh.
Photograph. Yeah, it was beautiful. But that's where I met him. And I've known him ever since then. And he was also involved in our science and religion group at the church. He was very active in that. So I knew him not only from astronomy, but from other situations too. So yeah, he's a very good person. So I'll research it some more.
Okay. Who's next?
Tim, is your mirror ready?
No, that I went up to Tom Whittemore's today and picked up his tester. I'm just having a nightmare with the one I've got. I don't know where to start on this. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm getting these testers ready to go. I can't read the little donut of light when I do the knife edge. The Ronchi is no problem. I can do the Ronchi all day long. But the knife edge is what I need. I need to take measurements so that I know. I suspect that I'm under corrected from what I've been doing with the knife edge so far. Unless I've not hit, the focus or R perfectly, I can't get that ring of light to go all the way around the mirror, which tells me that I still have a turned edge. So if that's the truth, well, here we go again. But on the Ronchi, it looks pretty good. So until I get this tester really set up and running,
Yeah.
I'm not going to know anything.
Well, it only takes a little bit of a turned edge to take that ring away.
Yeah, and I suspect that there may be just a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
And the correction that I think it's going to need, I could probably get rid of the edge if there is one.
Mhm.
Because I suspect that I'm just slightly undercorrected. And the reason I say that, Jerry, is the Ronchi, using a Ronchi grading,
Yeah.
outside R, the corrections don't show the turnout that you would see on the inside. And I could show you guys. I have a couple of gradings here that I can just hold up so you can see what I'm talking about. And this is not the proper ones, but okay, let's see. I don't know how this is not showing up. There we go. Why is that not showing up?
Because you have your background on.
Can I
Put it
turn
right.
that?
Put it right in front of your face.
Yeah. Put more light on the Ronchi pattern.
There it goes. Oh,
I get the idea.
Yeah. Anyway, you can see that, and you can see how the bands turn in.
Yeah.
Okay, so that looks it looks very much like what I've got. However, when I go outside R and I show this pattern here, that pattern there, what I'm seeing.
This is your ideal one. This is not your actual measurement, correct?
This is actually a this could be very close. This is really close.
But it's a computer printout.
It's a printout that Tom did when my R was a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
It was like 79.75 inches.
You're to the point where you need to take more quantitative data.
Yes. So what's happening with the Ronchi? These lines, they appear to be a little bit more parallel. In the center, the edge isn't turned out as much. So there's something going on there that I don't have.
You're undercorrected.
Yeah, I think it's undercorrected. So that's where I'm at. But I want to take the measurements to just number one, to start working with the light donut that you have to be able to identify when you're taking these measurements. Yeah. And as I recall, it's a matter of getting used to seeing it. You can sit there and look at this all day long and not really, it's as good as it's going to be when you get used to it. But once you get used to the little fine tunings of the tester. And I mean, you know, he's got the one I made for Tom. It's got a 1/4 screw on it, so it's almost too many threads. So when you walk that stage in or out, it's going to change the, you know, that little donut of light. It's going to travel from the outside edges of the mirror to the inside, and there's pins, toothpicks that hang down over the mirror that those little shadows are going to appear over. And then I take measurements on a micrometer, and that micrometer reading is what's going to give me the detail. So what's going on is that the LED I'm using, let me back up a bit. When I did my 10-inch mirror that I've already made, I was working with a guy named Jeremy Schmidt, who was an engineering student out at UCSB working on his doctorate. And we worked for 2 years in the backyard here. And when it got to the tester, I didn't have a proper slit for it. And Jeremy got really, you know, he was kind of an impatient guy. He would have always wanted to move forward. So what he did was just say, Tim, don't worry about it. I got it. He got a piece of electrical tape and a really sharp knife and put a slit in it, and then kind of opened it up, pushed it over the LED. So you could, by hand, you could just like press that slit open or closed. Oh. It worked. But we used if you can imagine, I think I showed you guys I sent some images of this tester. I have actually 2 LEDs running. One is within the viewing window and one is below the viewing window. And the one I used to do the 10-inch was the LED below the viewing window. It's much dimmer. The subtleties of the light is it needs a lot more darkness. So when Tom came along with his tester, when Mike came along with his tester, that LED was within the viewing window, much brighter. And to get that knife edge to work, you had to kind of tweak it a bit. You had to have the dark light, but you really had to adjust it, play with it a bit in order to see that donut of light walking across the mirror. So where I'm at right now, I went back to the Stellafane website and I started looking at the plans, which is what I used. It turns out the 5mm LED that I use is not what the plans were based on. They were based on a Radio Shack 10mm. It's almost it's like a 3/8 inch diameter LED. So it's a bigger LED. And when they put it together, you know, they're using 2 1.5 volt batteries in series. So you have 3 volts coming out. And then the LED is generally between 2 volts and 3 volts. And so in line there, I have to put some resistors. Well, being the kind of electrician I am, I have no clue what I'm doing. So I've been kind of looking.
You want the LED to have a maximum of 20 milliamperes through it. That's what they're designed for. And you can buy those big LEDs at Santa Barbara Electronic Supply at the base of the airport tower.
Okay. You
can measure the forward voltage on them. You know what your battery voltage is. You know what the current is. You take the voltage difference divided by the current. That tells you the resistor you need.
So Bruce, one more time. You take the forward voltage I have, and the ones I have coming. There's two different LEDs I have coming. One is a 5mm, and the other one's a 10mm. The 5mm one is a yellow green. The forward voltage is about 2.2 volts. And the current is 20 megaamps.
Milliamperes, right? That's milliamp. Typically, right.
So 20 milliamps. The other one is a 10mm green. Now that's a 3 volt or 3.2.
Yeah, as it goes from infrared up through and into violet, the voltage that they need goes up and up and up.
So here's one of the questions I have is that from the equations they have in this little electronics book, they say you take the voltage that your voltage you have. So I have 2 1.5 volt batteries in series. That's 3 volts coming out. If my LED is 3 volts, I don't need any. I won't need any of the because it's like.
Well, that's really dicey. You really ought to have 4 batteries because you want to have some voltage across. What's going to happen is your batteries are used. They're going to drop down. A fully charged alkaline cell is about 1.56 volts. but you know, it's going to get down to 1.4 volts pretty quickly. And you're going to get to a point where you simply don't have enough voltage to even excite the LED, no matter what resistor's in there. So, all right. So if you go,
I got to tell you, I had a blue LED here that was a 3-volt LED, and the two D cells that I have wouldn't drive it, just like you're saying. So, like an idiot, I went and got a 9-volt battery and just hooked it up to it, and it was a really beautiful blue for about 1/8 of a second.
Yeah. So if you use 3 batteries, that's 4.5 volts. You need 3 volts across the LED. All right.
Okay.
So you want to drop 1.5 volts across the resistor at 20 milliamperes. So 1.5 divided by 0.02 milliamperes, you need a 75 ohm resistor.
70 ohm?
75.
75 ohm. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to get a 3 D cell holder.
You can get you go to Santa Barbara Electronic Supply. They've got a whole bunch of holders. They've got the big fat LEDs.
Bruce, I got some LEDs coming from Amazon. I think it's 160 LEDs, so I figure I just let them pop. I got a bunch of solder and a little soldering iron, so I'm just going to solder them on and run them for 5 minutes until they blow, and then put another one in.
Well,
so
what
I'm probably going to do, Bruce, is I'm probably going to get rid of. I have 2 LEDs running simultaneously right now. So let's just forget that. I've got Tom's tester, which I built him, and it's like a little 5 millimeter green LED, and I think it's one that was Radio Shack's. It's like 2.8 volts, and I think it was 40 milliamps. But I don't know the number on that. I have to look it back up. But anyway, he's got it all hooked up. But what it's doing right now is blinking. So it's there's either a solder connection that's bad on it, or it's not the right resistance.
Well, what's probably happening is they'll use little gold bond wires to connect the lead frame to the LED, and then they encapsulate it in epoxy. And if it's gotten overheated and one of those bond wires is separated, so then it's either touches or doesn't touch, it will blink. It's just a thermal thing. It's been overstressed.
Okay.
You don't want to exceed 20 milliamperes. So unfortunately, in electronics, the failure rate doubles for every 6 degrees C rise in temperature. So if you go 12 degrees C over whatever it's designed for, then you only have 1/4 of the life. You don't want to overstress these things. They won't last.
I think that's why Tom's is kind of failing right now, is because there's no resistors in line, none. I don't know why he did that. And what he's running are 2 AA batteries in series.
Oh, so can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Because my setup, I use a 4 battery solution, 4 AA's. Okay, and so what that allows you to do is to more finely adjust it without. First of all, as the batteries go down in voltage, if you have too little to begin with or just enough to operate it, if they go down just a little bit,
your LED goes out.
Right. So the ideal source for an LED is a constant current source, and the way you simulate that is with a higher voltage with a resistance. And
if you go with 4 cells, then you've got enough overhead where you can put in a transistor. You can make a constant current source easily.
Well, or you just use a resistor. All I have is a single resistor to make sure I don't blow it out. And
you probably want 150 ohms. That will get you 20 mils.
Yeah, or I think I even have more than that.
Just a single.
I have a 10K pot on the other side. It gives you enough adjustment for just about any voltage.
Mike, I think it's the 10K pot that you gave me.
Yes.
And won't that act like a resistor all in itself?
It is.
It is a
but the thing-
resistor.
It is, but you don't want that when it goes down to 0, because it'll go from 10K all the way down to 0. Okay,
Right.
when you go, okay, then you'll blow out the LED. What you need is another resistor in series with your LED, such that if you go down to 0, you won't blow out your LED. And ideally, what it is, it's approximately 20 milliamps or less
Right,
for your
right.
LED. So I think I might even have like 450 ohms or even a 1K, because the LED that I have has got so much light output. I don't need
Yeah,
that
you have
much light.
yours is much brighter.
Hey, Tim, do you
yeah.
need a sketch from like Mike or Bruce? Give you a sketch of what they have? Would that be good?
Yeah, it would be really good. You know, the other thing is, I was going to ask you guys tonight, is I've been looking into getting an ohm meter or a multimeter.
Oh,
What I have right now is an old Radio Shack one, but I'm so stupid. The Radio Shack is probably over my head as it is. You know, but is there something that you could recommend that I get to use, or just don't do that? Just
Harbor
use,
Freight has like, I don't know if they're still, they used to be as cheap as $10 for a
Yeah.
digital voltmeter. And so sometimes people get confused reading the scale on the meter,
I was looking
especially
at this one.
especially when you got multiple scales for ohms, volts, and AC
Oh,
and DC.
I was looking at these ones made by Fluke, which are like they're the price of a used car, and you know, there's one called Greenlee that actually has a really fancy
No.
meter.
All you need is three and a half digits is more than enough. You can go to the Harbor Freight or
Okay.
You
well,
buy those-
you used to be able to go to Radio Shack. Oh,
Well,
hold a
the
second.
one I have from Radio Shack works. It's just a real simple little device,
Okay.
a little digital device. I could probably get
Yeah.
away with using that. But what I don't have is the brains to figure out the diagrams. And the next time up to Tom's, he was going to sit me down and draw diagrams.
I
Try
think
to-
Where is it?
we'll come up with a hand-drawn diagram showing the physical wiring rather than the schematic. And that, that's. I
You know
think
what,
that's-
Bruce? You have my email, right?
I think so.
You know what to do? Just take a screenshot of that and or just take a picture of it and send it to me. And then, Mike, on a four battery LED, I mean a 4 battery,
Yeah.
it's in series, right? Now
Yes.
would that be 6 volts or is it
Yeah,
more?
it would be
Yeah,
6 volts.
volts.
Your minimum resistance is higher on, the current limiting resistor. But the fact that the 6 volts varies because you're going through a much higher resistance for your light control, it doesn't matter as much. In other words, it's very steady.
I have another question, and I know this is a good one because I've heard it is. Is it
That's a good one.
the rechargeables? I should stay away from those?
Oh, no. Actually, rechargeables in some cases are better because, like with the NiCads, and I think even with the
I've been using
like
an
a metal ion, they probably have steadier voltage as they discharge, and then they fall off real rapidly.
Okay.
Whereas an
Okay.
alkaline goes down slowly.
Okay. Well, with that little multimeter, I could probably find out. I'll go out to
Yeah.
that place that you
But
guys
the
are
thing-
talking about.
But the thing is if you have a large resistance to drop the voltage to begin with, change in voltage has much less effect on your current. Yeah, there it is right there. The fixed resistor, I mean, I'm off
Wonder
the
if I
top
can-
of my head, a couple hundred ohms or something like that.
Oh, great. I got a screenshot. Good. Thank you.
And
That's gonna help.
it's recorded.
Yeah, it's all this stuff's going to help me. I'm telling you, I'm so lousy at electronics. I get shocks off flashlights. So,
Good flashlights.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah. but I'm learning. I have this book that I got years ago because I was doing all this work inside the house, rewiring and everything. And I just didn't want to. I have a great story how when I was a kid, I decided I was going to take all these stereo parts and build a really good one. So I got them all together in the living room and I hooked them all together and plugged it in, and I could hear my whole house hum.
Oh, you made it into a woofer.
The whole house hummed and went off. So that's how good I am at electronics. So I, but right now I had a book on electronics that was what I thought was going to show me just basic wiring. And instead, it's exactly what I want to study now. But I got into it and kept reading it over and over and over. And it's just like, it's not getting through the concrete. But, but it will. And with your guys' help, I'll be able to put one of these together. I don't think I have the right wiring for this tester. And beyond that, the bad thing is that this is for you, Jerry. I went and bought some brass sheeting down at the Home Improvement, and I got out my lab handpiece, and I have some really thin cutting discs, and I cut a slit in the brass. Yeah. And then I put double-sided tape to it so I could stick it right over the LEDs and get a really nice little slit. Mm-hmm. It's okay, but it's non-adjustable. The thing that was great about what Jeremy did is that he just took that piece of electrical tape, cut it, and pushed it over the LED.
I have a number of slits and pinholes that I made like that, and they're not adjustable. I've never had a good adjustable one. What I do is I just put the one in there that works. If it's too big,
exactly.
Put one in.
That's what I'm going to do. Is I'm just going to keep on playing with this, and this. I got a whole sheet of this brass. I can just keep cutting slits, and the beauty of it is you just take pieces of double-sided masking tape and push it onto the LED. Yeah. It's wonderful. You can push it on, pull it off, and do the Ronchi with the full blast LED, and put the little slit back on. But I'll find out a lot more this week. I just picked up this tester today. The last time we used this, the last time we had a workshop, Tom was with us in the workshop, and he couldn't, with his tester, he couldn't see that shadow on my mirror. So we were doing something really weird with it.
I was going to say something about that. If you suspect a turned edge, take a piece of black paper and you have an 8-inch mirror, cut a 7.5-inch circle in it, and just put it over your mirror so it blocks the edge.
Right. Bruce, I did that. I got an indelible marker, and I marked the outside edge because what I suspected was that there used to be a company named Taurus that did nothing but make mirrors. That's all they did was make mirrors, and they had pictures of the Ronchi and all the stats on each mirror up on the screen. And by the way, this is the same company that Joe Doyle bought his 18-inch mirror from, and it was turned. It was a horrible mirror. But these people at Taurus used to say, when you're looking at either the Ronchi or the knife edge, and what it looks like a turned edge may not be a turned edge. It may be the edge of the mirror, as it has a little bevel on it, that it's picking that up. Well, we in the workshop, I think Jerry and Tom and I, one night we talked about it, and that's a bunch of baloney, because when you have a bevel on a mirror, that bevel falls away so fast. There's no way that you're going to have the same radius of curvature there. It's not going to show up.
Also not polished, so you're not going to see anything.
And it's not polished.
Yeah, so, but you can always take a black Sharpie and just run it around that. If it really.
And that's one of the common things when people have made their own mirror and they've got a persistent turn down edge and they just can't abide working on it anymore. They'll do a thin black annular mask like Bruce suggested, or they'll paint the outer 1/4 inch of the mirror with black paint, and then they'll use
right.
Well, it was on that 6-inch reflector. Remember, the son wanted to rebuild that 6-inch reflector for the father, and when we inspected the mirror, it actually had a black.
Oh, did it? The mask had the mask on it. Well, we can always. I can always do a mask, but one night at Broder, we actually took an indelible marker and marked it.
Yeah,
and found out.
I want you to know that at the SBAU Telescope Workshop, we do not mask mirrors. We do not produce turn down edges. You will get this straight.
We aim for
Turn down
perfection.
edges are not done.
Right.
You're torturing me, Jerry.
Well, there's two ways you could tell if you got the turned edge on your Rocky. You should be able to tell on your Rocky at the very end. It's going to hook.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yeah,
hook
it
this
just,
way
Mike,
or
it
do
looks,
that.
it looks pretty good.
What he's hoping for is that even when your mirror is perfect, there is a teeny little hook that goes the same way as a turn down edge. Now his turn down edges are really turn down edges. They're much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's hoping.
Yeah.
This is actually looking pretty good, Mike. The Ronchi looks pretty good.
Why don't you
And-
just put it in the scope and do a star test?
That's the next best thing is I'm gonna actually mount that. Getting that another thing that I want to work on in the near future here is the mirror cell from University Optics. Those old aluminum mirror cells.
Yeah.
Those things are not easy to get in a sonotube. You have to back out all these screws and then drop it out, put it back in, and so I'm going to try to work on something that I can pop that out of there real quick. And
Do you have any spare lumber?
yeah, I do.
Well, why don't you make make a piece of dog meat like I did for just testing your mirror? Where
Oh,
you,
I could. Yeah, I could do that.
I mean, that'll make it a lot easier,
Yeah.
you know. And I mean, go to what's his name? What's the link here? Bob Astro Systems, or hold a second here.
Actually, Mike, one
Mel-
of the reasons.
Mel Bartels. He
Yeah.
shows a couple of star testers, which are just basically very simplistic. And he doesn't even put the mirror in a mirror cell. It's basically a bunch of bolts sticking out from the back, and then two that hold it. Because what you're making is a cheap Dobsonian that it's resting against something.
Right. I've
And-
seen some of those testers in Sky and Telescope magazine and their workshops, and there's some real easy ones you can make.
That's basically what my COVID scope was all about. It was just a
Yeah.
star tester, and then I added the trunnions. And
You know,
the
what I
rocket
found to
box.
be very interesting to me is that I started with an R value of, in other words, twice the focal length. It was, I think, 79.5. That went to 79.75. And now R is 81 inches. So it's actually stretched out. So in just polishing, I could move that value of R.
It shows that you spent most of your time with the mirror on the bottom.
Yeah.
And so that lengthens it.
Yeah, and it's lengthening it. So anyway, guys, I don't want to belabor this. I'm taking far too much time. But what I'm finding is, number one, first of all, I want to get this LED fixed on the tester, and then I want to create a good slit for it. And then what I'll do is, somewhere in this house, I'll find some place that I can test it. It's dark. I did set up a really cool little tripod that Tom Whittemore, his friend Tom Mudd that died, left him, and it has one of the center columns that you can crank up and down using a hand crank. So with the tester, I can literally take it anywhere in the house and come to a height that matches whatever I set that mirror on. It's a really nice situation. And all I did was put a plywood base on that with a 1/4-20 screw insert, so I can just screw it to the tripod. And I've got a tester that's mobile. You can take it anywhere. So that's a good thing. But once I get that all set up, I'll try and take some measurements and I'll get back with you guys. But right now, it's fixing these LEDs and figuring out this stupid resistor stuff.
I was just looking on the web. A green LED drops about 2 volts or a little bit more, depending upon the current. And so if you put with that 10K pot, you put I'd say a 220 ohm resistor. That'll give you close to 20 milliamps maximum. Okay, so
That's what these LEDs are rated. what the current is. They're all the ones I ordered.
Yeah,
They're all
but you don't have to go to 20 milliamps. Usually
Too bright.
they're too bright. Yeah, that's why the 10K comes in handy. It lowers it. So you're only going to operate it probably between 10 and 5 milliamps. That's as bright as you're normally going to do.
okay.
Yeah, because you'll see how bright it is. It'll be blinding.
Well, it was
Newer
quite amazing.
LEDs are super bright. They've improved the process.
Oh yeah.
So another thing that I found with these LEDs is that there's just a little spot in the center. So you just have a little spot and you're supposed to diffuse them. So in the past, what I've done is just taken sandpaper and you just take the little, the LEDs are domed.
What I do is put a couple of sheets of tracing paper over the front of the LED,
really?
And that diffuses it really nicely. If you took I had to go fix mine a couple of times, and basically I think I might even use some cotton that I puffed out a little bit and stuck Scotch tape over it into the hole over the LED. So the LED is in a piece of wood. It's not sticking all the way through. It's back a little bit, like a eighth of an inch or a quarter of an inch. And you stick some cotton in there, okay, after you pull it apart to make it tenuous, and put a piece of Scotch tape over the front, and you'll have a diffused light source.
Mike, you'd really like the little setup I have that I set up with this 10 millimeter LED. Of course, it's red. I have a red LED.
Doesn't matter. As long as it's bright enough.
And the problem I had with the tester that I was saying, I wasn't getting that LED close enough to the Ronchi screen. Whatever I did to this, it brought it much closer to my tester. So this might work a little bit better.
Well, what I did was with the slides of my tester were made out of the stirring sticks you get at the
oh yeah
and so I notched it and it slid in there. I just put another piece of that stirring stick right above it in line, okay, and that's where I mounted my LED. So it was back a little bit, and on one side was the Scotch tape, some of the cotton, and then LED at the other end, and that made a pretty diffused source. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was good enough that I was getting very good Ronchi and good Foucault testing. Now, when it came to the f3.9 14-inch, then I needed to go to a smaller light source to get more or contrast, and that's where I hit upon the fiber optic thing. But I think that the main problem with the LED, with these Foucault testers, is you got to train yourself to put your eye right next to that knife edge where you're not going to see it. And you got to be able to train yourself to always put your eye at the same spot.
That's right.
Okay. And that's why when I made that little gizmo for automatically taking the data.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I invented that, because then you never have to leave your eye.
Right.
Because what you could always do is you go to that, as you're keeping your eye there, you're moving in and out to go between the different pins, okay, and press the button. And so it takes
what I remember doing with the 10-inch is that I found that I was doing taking 5 sets of data or more a night and at the workshop. And we found that a couple of things. One of the big mistakes that the newbies use is they start taking some of the readings on the right side of the mirror. So you're taking the pins on the right side of the mirror, and then they switch over to the left side. Not a good idea. You just want to stay on one side.
The major trouble I have with the Foucault testing, and I never did it get satisfactory is that the donuts, it would give out on one side and not the other.
Yep.
And
Yep.
having to move the thing back and forth, I think the fact that you're moving it back and forth actually would change the reading. Is that right, Jerry?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. So how do
You
you?
need a true pinhole to be able to look at both sides, move from side to side with your eyes.
Okay.
And we're
Yeah,
not using that.
The thing is getting things coaxial back and forth so that that's the problem is, I think, is that the line of sight of your Foucault tester has to be exactly collinear with the center of the mirror. And so if it's tilted this way or this way, it's going to change as your focuser goes in. I mean, as your
When you go in and out, it has to move on the optical axis.
yeah, right.
That's
so,
what that other
that-
screw is for.
It's because you have to have it. You have to have the elevation right. You have
Right.
to have the tilt of the tester right. There's a lot of variables, and I think what I started doing was to get it more accurate. I put the wonky screen back in, okay, and with a very fast mirror, you get these very big radical changes as you go in and out of focus, and
Yeah.
they become lopsided. So I would adjust to make that look the best, and then I put my Foucault in there. and
Okay.
That
Okay.
seemed to get it a little bit better. but,
Okay. Well,
I mean, Jerry
want to.
probably
I
has a better way of doing that than I do.
I don't want to take up all our time here, but thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm learning.
I'll send you a diagram.
Oh,
With some math.
geez. Who's that guy?
Who's
He
that
had
That's a
darker-
great.
gentleman?
That's a great tester, boy. That tester was the best.
That was genius.
And that's my usual way of building things. Scrap crap,
Yeah.
things taken out of the trash. and
Yeah,
then
but
you
it
put
was the
together-
best. That tester was the best. And
It was very good.
Yeah, the beard kind of went with COVID because
yeah,
the masks don't work well with Matt. I mean,
my eyes have changed too. I found it when trying to seeing that donut over the pins. Oh man, I was getting all kinds of double images. Trying to adjust my glasses because, I have the not bifocals, but what do you call them? Progressive, I think they're called.
oh yeah.
So you just have to have your eye just right to see
Well,
it all clear.
The way you get away from that would be is to put a video camera.
Oh, yeah, you did that.
Yes, with my cell phone.
Mhm.
So, or another camera.
Bruce actually sat down with me in a couple of workshops and showed me an Excel, how he made the Excel program. And I told him, I said, Bruce, I can't do that. I've got it somewhere on my laptop that I have. I got to fire it up again. And he wrote it all out for me. So I've got that it's a known algorithm. It's not the one that this guy Rifke that I've been using.
Mhm.
But knowing that I have that now, once I get some data, I'll put it in there, and then I can either send an image to Tom, or else I'll learn how to share a screen on this iPad. Can't be that difficult. I'll do a test with Tom before I do that, so I don't get stuck here trying to get in and out of a screen share. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. I'll go to work on this, and
Yeah.
I'll go out
Yeah.
there and get that 4 battery holder and then change it out.
I tell you what, I'm going to go. Oh yeah, there it is.
Wow.
With the iPhone.
Wow.
Nice image.
It took
Who's the
some-
mirror guy? Was that my mirror? No. You know who that was?
That's-
That might have been
That's
Chris.
the test. That's my tester, and that's with my iPhone. Yeah.
You know what? I think that was mine. You could see my sheet there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was my 8-inch, I believe. I
Oh.
remember when it looked pretty good back then.
Uh-huh.
How many years ago?
Exactly. Exactly.
3.
Well, that's what was with me. Remember, I had my 10-inch almost ready, and then I had a scratch, and then I had to go back and. But anyways, if you guys can see it, I'm gonna try and experiment with this here. I've got a second WISE camera, and see how that works with the tester, because it's got the universal thing that you can go up and down and all around.
Is that security camera you told me about?
Yeah, $20.
Yeah, that's nice.
And
Sold by Home
so,
Depot.
yeah, it's an incredible buy. And they've got even a better one out, that's got an improved lens. Now, the thing is that this lens, you can remove it. You have to take the thing apart to get to it so that you can unscrew it. Okay. But you can buy a bunch of lenses from you know where across the ocean, you know,
Oh yeah.
with different focal lengths, you know, and pick the right one that fits in there. It's got the proper threads. With an inexpensive webcam that I was using originally, what I wound up doing was I had an old IBM webcam that really didn't work, and so I took the lens mounting out of it and put it on here, because a lot of the new webcams, they're so small, they don't even use normal lenses anymore. And so
What do they use? What do they use? Are they just pinhole?
it's almost like they're permanent, or it depends on which one. It was a very tiny lens. It was like 2 or 3 millimeter thread or something like that, ridiculously small. And so the choices for lenses are not as good as the larger threads.
Well, they
As a
don't
matter,
make lenses that small. I have some eyepieces that have 2 millimeter diameter lenses.
yeah. Well, I mean,
2 millimeter?
Yeah, diameter. Yeah, they're really
I think the focal length's like 2, 3, or 4 millimeters focal length.
yeah.
Mike, what's that camera, that security camera called again?
The WISE, WYZE.
Okay.
And,
Well, I've got my work cut out, that's for sure.
well,
that you-
let me see if it works with the tester, okay, before you go buying it. But it probably does, and if it doesn't, it means that the lens needs to be changed. So basically, what you do is there's a little slot in the back. Where is it? Right here on the bottom. Whoops. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you stick a micro SD in there after you put a new bootloader, and then you turn it on and it downloads it in there, the firmware, and then it becomes a webcam, but not a security cam.
Okay.
So you lose some nice features, but like,
Well, you guys saved me a bunch of money tonight. I was going to go out and get an ohm meter, but I think I don't need one.
well, if it's a digital one, okay, then it should be pretty explanatory. I mean, with the old meter ones, a lot of people got confused because you've got all these, you know, it's like a slide rule. You have many scales, and you forget which one you're reading. It doesn't matter. And sometimes the scales were non-linear, so yeah, it was easy to forget.
Well,
You
someday
can buy those digital voltmeters on Harbor Freight for less than $5.
Yeah,
that's what Mike was saying. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I actually got like 4 or 5 of them because my different projects I put in different places.
I've
Hey,
been
Tim, you're not the only person. I'm just saying, Tim, you're not the only person that's had trouble with electronics, right? For sure. Years ago, my brother put together a Heathkit reverberator. And I was with him when he plugged it in, and he turned it on, and it lit up like a Christmas tree. That was the end of it. He and I both.
I'll never forget the sound of that. I was really proud. I said, I think I got it. Plugged that little stereo in. And I mean, all the walls were humming. They were literally moving and humming. I pretty near blew up my house.
I got a scary story when I on radar. And so they use magatrons, kilowatts with, 20 to 40,000 volts at 10 amps and pulse. Well, my first job was working on solid state ones, and I was put on night shift. And one of the measurements you make on these modulators was what type of voltage it puts on the magnetron. It's got a filament in there like a regular vacuum tube. Okay. And so what you do is you short out the oscillator that causes the big pulses to happen. And so I was doing it for a couple of years, and at night, I was doing it on a modulator, and out of the side of my head, on my eyesight, I saw the clip start to fall off. And I pulled my hands out just in time when all of a sudden the modulator started singing, okay, and 30,000 volts was, I could almost see it traveling up through the test leads to a $5,000 fluke industrial meter. And I swear to you, it did the thing like the R2D2 did with the Jawas zapping, the first. They never could fix that.
When I worked on the ships, we had a seismic crew on board, and instead of like setting off charges to reflect off the bottom, they used these big hydrophones where they were just big tubes, clear tubes that had a bunch of wiring and all kind of, I don't know what was in them, but there were huge generators that would build up a charge. And I think the charges would go up to like 40,000 volts. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, it was amazing at night, really beautiful. These maybe 30 yard long tubes would trail the boat, and you'd have these anchors on board of them, so they would keep them down. They'd plane the tube down as you're pulling them behind you, and then the charge would build up, and all of a sudden it would, I guess, what are they, capacitors would store it, and then it would release it all at once, and it would a loud bang that would just shake the boat. And the ocean at night, it was a turquoise that you won't forget. It was beautiful. But one day I'm sitting there, and I told you I get shocked off flashlights, and one of the guys came up to me and he said, "You see these prongs here? You see the two leads?" He goes, "When we're done at the end of the day, I want you to make sure you short it out right here. Because if you don't and you touch it, it's 40,000 volts going through you and a lot of amps." And I said, "God damn it, I'm not doing that. You send somebody over here to take a hold of these. I'm not going to go and do it." And he showed me. He said, "Just go in here." And he hit it. It was this big pow to release the, to short it out.
The capacity, yeah. It's cables. Cables themselves will retain a charge. Like they act as a capacitor. It's a residual charge. It builds up. And when I was working in another place called Magnetech, where they're making these inverters that were like a megawatt, it's basically DC supply, and they'd have these capacitors about this big and about 20 or 30 of them in a drawer, and they're charged up to 800 volts. That's the intermediate voltage, and you turn it off. You don't touch that. You take a big screwdriver. Okay, that's what they did. And they that screwdriver would start losing its tip after a while.
I mean, these
and you don't do it once, you do it several times, it builds up again.
We also worked with those big capacitors when I was in graduate school at UCLA. And the laser lab was right next to us, and they had into our lab, And they had capacitors in there that were about 10 inches by 10 inches by 6
Yeah.
inches.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And they had two porcelain towers on top with
Oh, yeah.
connectors on top.
Yeah.
And they had them charged up, and the guy that was in the lab, I forget his name, but one day they were charged, and he brought his hand too close, and he passed his thumb between the two leads. It
So,
would sound like a rifle shot, and it burned a hole and cauterized it right through his thumbnail and the bone and all the way through the thumb. You could look through it.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was lucky, but when you get those capacitors from the
Jeez.
vendor, they always have a wire on, because first of all, they have to test them. Okay. So they have to charge them up to that voltage. Okay.
Yeah.
And so for safety, they have a wire that just shorts it. So any voltage that builds up again gets shorted out immediately. So
Oh man, I was scared shitless, man. The
Capacitors
guy-
have capacitors have a characteristic called dielectric absorption.
yeah,
So you can charge them up, and some of the charge goes into the dielectric. So when you discharge them, it doesn't all come out.
that's what I'm talking
It's not
about.
right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. So you
really?
can let them. Yeah, yeah.
That's part of their losses too, which, for AC,
Yeah.
makes them dissipate. But,
no.
Well, on that happy note, I think I'm going to check out for the evening.
Me
okay.
too, guys. It's been great. I really enjoyed it.
Nice seeing you all.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
going to go
how's
try
your
to
new
see the
scope?
Nova.
What's
Hank,
that?
how's your new scope?
I said I'm going to go try to see the Nova
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
up
yeah.
in Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
Where in
Hank, how's
Cassiopeia?
How's
Where
your new
is it?
scope, Hank?
It's between Cath and
Cepheus.
It's near
Oh, God,
M52.
I mix it with Navi, which is at the other end of Cassiopeia. Cath is
Shedar.
better.
NR and calf, and then you stretch, you double that length
Yeah.
Right.
It's between the
towards
two.
Cepheus.
It's the last two stars in the W,
Right.
Oh,
and it's
Alright.
about equal distance that they are apart
It's between
in the
them
same
there?
direction that they
Yeah.
point.
So
Okay.
get your star map out, your atlas, and look at the field in the eyepiece. And if your atlas shows no star, but you see one, that's it.
Okay.
all right.
Okay. See you later. Bye.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah, I got to go too.
All
We'll see
right,
you
everyone. I guess
later.
we'll call it.
Hey, Hank,
Any other
Hank,
final
how's your new
comments?
scope?
Any other final comments?
Yeah, I wanted to know how Hank's new scope is.
So it's been windy, but I've put the scope on the mount, and the system that I put on there actually works really well. The little block of wood that just hooks behind the saddle. That really works. I mean, you just put it up there and put it down, and then you can just walk around it and tighten it. So that works. But it's been too windy, so I've had it on there 2 times at least. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And you're
And-
using a cart to get it up under the tripod?
No. It's not that heavy. You can just lift it and put it on.
Oh,
there.
okay.
You know,
Okay.
it's yeah. I mean,
It's a
size
12-inch
is just
f4.
right for me. Anyway, yeah, it
Well,
looks beautiful. It
Yeah,
also
really
came-
try it without wind, Hank. Give it a
I
try
know.
without the wind.
Yeah,
You should be
So
able
when is that going to happen?
to.
I know. I don't know. It's
And it's end of March. End of
It's
March.
20-mile-an-hour winds tonight.
20 miles an hour. Yeah.
It's
Well,
soon.
Bruce, we got him here too.
Well,
Do you?
And
last
we
night I
got
was
him up
outside.
here.
I was trying to practice the guiding with a scope, and I was looking at ECOS, and all kinds of things went wrong. So I went outside, and my God, there was a wind out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nothing, not my fault. So
Okay.
yeah, then I just backed it up, and that was it.
That's why I got
Okay,
it going.
guys.
Yeah.
I will see, I'll try to see you next week, and I'll get my second shot tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Good.
Yep.
Yep.
My second shot kind of laid me low for a couple of days.
That's what I was just gonna say. I've been talking to a lot of people that said that they had a reaction to it, so we'll see.
But encourage you, I didn't have a second reaction to the second shot. It's
Okay.
almost nothing. So
Well, I told my
Uh-oh.
son I was gonna meet him down to tennis courts after I got my shot. And he plays like you see guys on the TV, the guys on tour. So he goes, come on, Dad, pick it up.
well, listen, you've got a good excuse, Tim, if you don't play well. Just
I
tell
know.
us the shot.
I know. It's the shot.
Good shot.
It's either that or the hip.
All right, guys. We'll see you
Okay.
next week, okay?
All right.
All right.
Call
Right.
it quits. See you guys.
Good night.
Good night, guys.